So, to read out just the beginning of your biography, growing up in a family experiencing and witnessing domestic violence, Luke's early years were a struggle. Being taken into care at the age of 10, Luke began his journey moving placement to placement, involving himself in crime, drugs and alcohol, and at 15 years old found himself living independently in a bed and breakfast. Luke decided he wanted better for himself and didn't want to carry on making the wrong choices. Now at 21 years old, Luke has turned his negative reputation into one that's respected and valued, and I certainly concur on that, because I've met Luke before at other events and always delivers a fantastic presentation. The second part of his biography we'll come to later, because we're really going to talk about what he's doing now. But like I said, we're going to do a bit of a Q&A, and then we've got time to do a question and answer with everybody. So I suppose the first question would be, and we have agreed beforehand, by the way, not to mention any local authorities or IFPs, because we are filming today and best not get anyone in trouble. But how many foster homes did you have?
Foster homes, well, I had about 9 foster homes, but I was in 2 residential units, and I don't know if you guys have heard of treatment foster care. Yeah, multidimensional treatment foster care. That was another one of an exciting home, to say the least. Points make prizes and all that. And I was homeless several times in between that. So, yeah.
Okay. So, what was your best experience of being in foster care?
One foster family out of them all. I think a lot of the experiences I had were moving from pillar to post, and it's like a lot of things we've spoke about. I was quite a troubled child. I mean, I was brought up in a family of domestic violence, so foster care has struggled to understand what it was like for me and the things that I was going through. As well as that, I'd built up a referral where I was judged pretty much instantly walking into a house, you know. I was classed as a runaway child because I'd come home at 7 o'clock on a night time when I was meant to be in at 6 o'clock. So they classed me as missing from the police. So I went on my referral as a runaway child, but I'd never been missing once. I'd never ran away once. So as you can imagine, going to these foster homes, these foster carers have this perception of me of being this really bad kid and doing these really bad things that, you know, it's really hard for me to overcome that. And I think being a foster child, and I think foster children are very good at this, as soon as you meet somebody, I know I could do it, as soon as I meet somebody, I'd know straight away whether this placement was going to work or not. I'd know if someone was genuine or if somebody wasn't. And it was this one foster family that was really, really genuine for me. It was actually my 4th foster placement. I only lasted 18 months there. I say only. 18 months was actually a really, really long time for me. And I lived there for a long time and then left. I left because I wasn't ready to settle. And the thing what was different about those people is they genuinely cared. When people said I isolate myself because I locked myself in my room, I was just playing on my Xbox. You know, I was just reading a book. So when I went to go and sit in my room, they'd pop open the door and just say, are you okay? Do you want a drink? And I'd just say, yeah, I'm fine. And they'd be like, oh, okay. And they'd close the door and carry on with the day. Instead of where other foster carers would be like, you need to come into the living room, you need to come and socialise. I wasn't ready to socialise, and I think it was their genuine understanding and the things that they did that really made a difference.
So do you think it's that they were particularly good foster carers, or that they were a particularly good match for the sort of young person that you were?
I think it's further than that. I think they were just genuine, loving, caring people, despite good foster carers. I think they were specialist carers who were very well trained, but the thing that I picked up from these carers is they really wanted to do this job. And fostering was everything they did. It's everything they do, and they wouldn't do anything different. It was how they saw things. They looked at my referral and actually thought, well, fair enough, what's on there, we'll meet him and we'll see what he's like. And then they got to know me, because what shocked foster carers was when they met me most of the time, I was actually a really nice kid. I was never a bad kid, I just did bad things sometimes. And if you give me the chance to show you that, it was fine. And they accepted me. And I'm a big believer, if you accept people for who they are, they're going to accept you. And it's so important. As soon as I went into that home, straight away they said to me, I'd gone from a kid's home, so I was gone from being structured. You weren't allowed, if you didn't come in at 5 o'clock for your dinner, you had sandwiches. So I'll tell you, I spent a lot of time eating sandwiches. And the first thing that happened when I got there was they said, you can eat anything you want in this house. And I was like, anything? And it was just like a little small thing, you know, we've already mentioned the small things that make a difference. I was like, anything? I was like, yeah. So I got into the kitchen and I got a chicken pie out for 8 people. Yeah, stuck it in the Aga because they had an Aga, cooked it and I started eating it, and I got halfway through it and I'm having this little mini sort of panic to myself because I couldn't finish it. You know, I'd bitten off more than I could chew. And they just said to me, look, you don't have to finish it if you don't want. Just give it to the dogs. The fact that I'd actually seen that to me, that moment right there on that table was quite a difficult thing, because I'd come into someone's new house. You've got to remember that every time a child changes placement, it's like a cultural change. It's like somebody coming from another country to this one, but it's just a smaller scale and it's more personal. And they understood that sort of fear and that anxiety of thinking, oh, I've had too much chicken pie here, you know, and I'm going to be in trouble. And the way I was brought up at home, like, if I didn't eat my meals at home, you know, bringing up in a family of domestic violence, it was serious consequences. And that's built in, that's innate, you know, that's something that's a learnt behaviour for me. And the fact that they could understand that and they take that away from me was fantastic. You know, their vision is unbelievable.
I take it you're still in contact with them?
Yeah, I've rented my house with them for 5 years, so yeah, I can tell you the story of how I got back to them if you like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, when I was about 15 years old, I found myself being homeless, and I was living on the trains. I always went back to my parents. I think you'll always find this with kids in care. No matter what happens with their parents, there's always a relationship there. And I remember reading in a book once about a mother that she'd burnt a child. And the child was in this hospital bed in loads and loads of pain physically, but the child said that what hurts more is that I've lost my mum. It's not the physical pain, it's that I've lost my mum. And for me, growing up with that, obviously losing my parents, it was really difficult. And when I was homeless, because I'd gone back to my parents and I'd lost my mum and my dad, I was living on the trains, and I'd go to Leeds train station. I'd travel from Leeds to Manchester and sleep on the train. My dad was a train conductor, so I got like a Northern pass. I'd get on Northern trains for free. And then I'd go back from Manchester to Leeds and I'd sleep in, I don't know if you've been to Leeds, there's a glass waiting room, platform 1. It's really awkward because there's 2 seats and another 2 seats and like an armrest in between, so it's really hard to sleep on it. And then I'd get the train to Leeds to Manchester, Manchester, Leeds again, and I'd go to school. There was one night where I was just walking through Leeds and I walked past a homeless person on the street, and he's sort of like, you know, stereotypical homeless person, you know, really long hair, a bag full of rags, you know, cardboard box, you know, to lie on, and just, you know, really long fingernails, really dirty. I'm in the same position as him. We're both homeless. I am, you know. But then I start thinking, am I in the same position as him? Because I know deep down inside that in a couple of days' time I'm going to get a phone call and something's going to be arranged. I'm going to get a placement. I'm going to get a house. I know that someone's going to pay for me to eat. I've got school. You know, I can go to school. This man's not going to have any of this, you know. And what really made me realise was the opportunities in life that get given to you. And it's really hard that we really want to tell young people all this opportunity that being in foster care can give them. It's just trying to make them realise that it's there and to take that and to seize those opportunities. So from this moment, it sort of spared a difference in me. Something changed, and I got a B&B, like I predicted, you know, and I was sat in my B&B and I was thinking about all my old foster placements, and I was thinking, yeah, I was right, that one was crummy, that one was crummy, that one didn't really work, you know. But there's this one foster placement that stuck out, which was Jill and Gordon's, which is, you know, I remember calling my friend and saying to him, I really, really miss Jill and Gordon's, you know, I've really settled there. And I sort of understood that I wasn't ready to settle, you know, I had to go through what I had to go through because I just wasn't ready at that moment in my life to settle. But something they did planted a seed that I remembered them. And I said, but I've got my independence now. You know, it's ideal. I said, you know what would be perfect is if I could live back at Jill and Gordon's on my own. And I kid you not, a couple of days later, they had a conversation by chance, a social worker had a conversation that Jill and Gordon had bought, they live in a converted barn and there's 5 cottages attached to them. They'd bought the cottages just, you know, to rent out to supported lodgings for children. And then I got a phone call off them and saying, would you like to come back? Now, the scariest moment for me was the car journey there. Because you can imagine, I've moved from pillar to post my whole life. Car journeys to foster placements, like, it's just nothing. It's like, oh, what are these foster carers going to be like, you know? Well, they're going to have dogs. What's the family going to be like? What's the food going to be like, you know? I hope they live in a nice area. I hope I've got a good bed. You know, and you just don't worry about these things. It's all your basic instincts because that's what you want, the food, you know, you want to sleep. But this car journey to Jill and Gordon's was so nerve-wracking. The reason being is because it sort of broke a cycle. I'd seen all my foster carers giving up on me, but one foster carer just didn't, and they gave me a second chance. And there was that opportunity of that second chance. And so I arrived at the house, got out of the car, really, really scared, thinking how they're going to sort of handle this. I'd blamed myself pretty much for everything that I'd ever done, behaviour-wise. And I walked in the house and they said, it's good to have you back. I'm really sorry, but we don't have any chicken pies. And yeah, I mean, I never left, so yeah.
You said earlier that you weren't a bad kid, you just did bad things. And I think probably everyone in this room would argue that there aren't bad kids, there's just there's kids that do bad things. Yeah. So to flip that on its head, is there such a thing as bad foster carers?
I don't think anybody's bad at all. I don't think there is a bad foster carer. I just think foster carers have so much pressure, you know, and there's this thing where we were saying earlier, sometimes you don't foster carers feel just as powerless and just like having the voice taken away sometimes as children do. It's all this red tape and bureaucracy and things that we can and can't do with children. And it becomes so difficult. We make such a pressure for foster carers, and at the end of the day, it's about loving and caring and supporting for a young person and giving the people the freedom to do that. I did some work in Europe, and what I learned from the Netherlands is over there, if you're it's called a pedagogy. You respected, and that's it. You could bath a child, you could do anything with a child because you're trusted, and that's it. If you're in that position, and I think we need to be giving this delegate more of this to foster carers, because just a simple thing like delegated authority. Foster carers felt like children. For example, when I wanted to stay at my friend's house when I was younger, they had to be CRB checked. I didn't want to tell my friends I was in foster care. So all my friends are going to this one house, would you like to stay over? My foster carer really, really wants me to stay, but their hands are tied because they have to be CRB checked. And that's where it becomes difficult. And for a child, you've got to imagine a child that's very sort of, what's the word, insular and ethnocentric. It's all about what's going on for them right there and then. So they don't understand that the foster carer's hands are tied. They don't understand the social worker's hands are tied. And that's where this perception of bad foster carers come from. There's actually none of them are bad. It's just the young child perceives them as bad because they're stuck between rules and regulations from the social worker that's stuck between rules and regulations from the people above them, and it's just so difficult. And I think we need to strip it all down and just remember what this is about. It's about a relationship with a young person. I never ever meet a young person and think, how can I help them? And I work with young people now, because I think when we say, how do we help somebody, we're saying that we've got something that they don't have. We're saying that we've got something to offer them that they don't have, and I think it's about offering a service to young people, and about being at their service and being open enough to learn from them as well as them learning from us, because then we're equal. And every time I see a young person, I always think, how can I build a relationship with this young person? Because that's the biggest thing that'll make a biggest difference, and the side effect will be a positive outcome, which is personal. It's not an educational achievement. A positive outcome for someone that's been sexually abused can be being able to have a conversation with you while looking at you in the eye. It's a personal challenge.
You're taking all my questions. So what do you, I think you probably might have answered this, but what do you think are the barriers? I mean, this morning we had the minister speaking, via video, and talking about removing some of the barriers and bureaucracies, and we also explored dual approval, looking at ways that we can both approve potential foster carers for fostering with a look to adopting. So there is a look centrally at barriers, but beyond the kind of the irritation factors that also Peter spoke about, what do you think stops someone from picking up the phone and being asking to be a foster carer?
God, loads of stuff. I mean, when I first started delivering fostering training, for example, one of the biggest things that I used to always see was these foster carers that had come in and they had this idea of a really lovely, rosy child that just wants to be hugged and looked after, and then we put them through the skills to foster and absolutely frighten them to death. I think that puts a lot of people off, and I always think there's a fine balance between letting them know about the reality of foster care and letting them know about the difficult cases that they can challenge, but at the same, still giving them hope that they can achieve things, because I think sometimes we do scare them off too much, and I think they need to understand the hard factors, but at the same time understand that things aren't as bad as, that things aren't always that bad. Hope facilitates the fundamental will to live. If we can give people this hope, then it's fantastic. I think that's a barrier. I think the other thing is as well, a lot of times when I speak to foster carers, is people don't like being told how to look after someone else's kid. It's just something as simple as that. It's like if you're a parent and you've had your own children, and I think you should have a level of responsibility if you've brought up your own children to be adults, and I think you know about parenting. I always worry sometimes when foster carers become foster carers that haven't had children, not because it's anything to their fault, it's just they haven't had that experience, so it could be a lot more difficult. And I think just boundary-wise, I think what happens is one thing happens, and it's like, look at the baby pee. There was, when I was in Gloucestershire not so long ago, somebody died in the woods with their children, and we always look to blame one person, and it's never one person's fault. We're a risk-averse society that just likes to blame people to get it out of the way, and then in the public eye it's done. It's a system failure. It's something we've got to step back and see what's gone wrong, where everyone could have been involved, and this is not about damage prevention, it's about damage limitation, And I think that's it, yeah.
I've only got 2 more questions
All right.
because I'm
I'm just trying to blab on so you can, yeah, that's all right.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think anyone wants you to shut up. That's
No,
for
no,
sure.
I just want to fill in your time, so.
No, well, not at all. I suppose.
No,
Thanks.
I was
Yeah.
looking at what, so
Just
yeah.
keeping me
Okay.
stressed.
Yeah.
All right. In a minute, I'm going to ask you about what you're doing now because I think
All right.
everyone's going to.
Okay.
I think everyone has an idea that you are smashing it,
Okay.
so to speak. But thinking about. No, yeah. So first of all, thinking about the retention side of things, why do you think placements break down?
I mean, loads of reasons. From a young person's point of view, a lot of placements break down because they aren't ready to settle. I mean, from my personal experience, I had an absolutely fantastic placement. Nothing was going wrong at all. I chose to leave that placement. Why? Because I wanted to go back to the kids' home and do what I wanted. It's about when we've got these children to keep children in the heart of everything we do, so we can give them strength to put their heart in everything that they do. And I think that when we say certain things to them and spot opportunities to communicate, we plant seeds for the future. And I think you've just got to remember this is a journey for a young person, that it's their roller coaster and you've just got to ride it. I think one of the ideas for retention of foster carers is the fostering support groups so useful. I mean, I do a lot of work with fostering support groups, and just them to get together, to offload with each other, to share experiences is useful. And I think, well, I don't want to say bad or good carers, but the carers that are creating positive outcomes, usually doing it time after time after time, and you could probably all spot them from your authorities and foster agencies, which are the good carers. Consult with them. Ask them what it is that they do in certain situations and what they do to make a difference, because these are the foster carers. They go through it and they experience it. They've got the answers that we need, and we can pass it on to other foster carers. I think that's something we need to do for retention, and allowing foster carers to be professional, giving foster carers a voice, and empowering foster carers. It's so important because we give them all this responsibility to look after a child. Yet when they don't do something, we tell them off for it, and it's about making foster carers professionals, giving them that empowerment, making them feel valued and giving them a voice and trusting them more.
I think it's clear the answer to this anyway, but I was going to
Okay.
say, why have you decided to stay within the sector and what are you doing now? But your passion's quite obvious.
Why have I stayed in the sector? Well, because I don't think I'm rubbish at everything else, so. No, that's a joke. Well, I was a personal trainer before I did this. I mean, I don't know. I've always been able to help young people, and throughout my whole life, I've always had what my foster carers call a string of decency. Where when I've met people, I've always tried my hardest to help, and this role actually came to me. I was doing a speech on health and fitness one day to some children. Some of them were asylum seekers that couldn't even speak English, and I'm trying to tell them about fruit and vegetables. So you imagine trying to tell people that can't speak English about fruit and vegetables. The whole room just switches off. And it was at a consultation day, and one of the foster carers said, "Do you mind doing a speak about your experiences?" And I spoke about my experiences just there and then, and it sort of developed from there. It was something where I've always had a passion to help young people, and I've always been able to understand young people because I know where they're coming from, and if I can do anything to help them, I will. And I think it's the small acts of kindness that make the biggest difference. And I'm not a foster carer, I'm not a social worker, I don't have a degree. I've got borderline GCSEs, I've only just got enough A-levels just to get me into university to study social work. But the things that I've learned is what we do with young people. It doesn't matter if we spend a minute, an hour, 10 years with them. That small act of kindness can make the biggest difference. I think when people and children and young people have lost dignity, and lost the family especially, the children that have the families have all these satisfactions of, you can do anything you want, you've always got a springboard, you can achieve anything you want, you can go to university, I believe in you. Foster children don't have that. They don't have somebody saying, I want you to achieve, I believe in you, I want you to do well. It's about, portraying positivity personally, I call it, not you can achieve well, I want to see you achieve well, And I think that's the reason I do this, is because I can give that to young people. It doesn't mean I have to be a social worker or foster care to support people. I just have to be someone that's there for them.
What way to sum up.
Thank you.